Welcome to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? And you didn't even realize it was sitting there all along, quietly blending in with ordinary coins that people spend without a second thought. Because today we are diving into one of the most mysterious and talked about coins among collectors, the 1989 P. Jefferson nickel. A coin so unbelievably rare that when one surfaced in a private auction, insiders whispered about figures reaching up to $50 million. Yes, you heard that right. A single 5-cent coin potentially worth more than luxury mansions, exotic cars, and lifetime fortunes combined. And the craziest part is that most people have probably held one in their hands and let it slip away without ever knowing its true value. So stick with me until the very end, because what's coming next in this series might be even more shocking. And trust me, you do not want to miss what could be hiding in your own pocket right now. Now let's break this down, because the 1989 P nickel, minted in Philadelphia, might sound ordinary at first. After all, millions were produced that year. But hidden within that massive production were a handful of coins that carried something extraordinary, something that wasn't supposed to exist. A minting anomaly so rare that even seasoned collectors were left scratching their heads when the first confirmed specimen appeared. And this is where the legend of the so-called Jefferson begins, a nickname whispered in underground collecting communities referring to a unique die error combined with an unusual strike alignment that gave the coin a slightly distorted portrait and microscopic doubling that could only be seen under magnification, making it nearly impossible for the average person to detect, which is exactly why so many of these coins may have slipped unnoticed into circulation, waiting patiently for someone sharp enough to spot them. Now imagine this: you're going through an old jar of coins at home, maybe something your grandparents left behind, and you come across a worn-looking 1989 nickel. Nothing special at first glance, but then under closer inspection, maybe with a simple magnifying glass, you notice something slightly off. The lettering seems thicker, the edges feel just a bit unusual. And that's when your heart starts racing, because you realize you might be holding something collectors would fight over. And this is not just speculation. There have been documented cases where rare nickels with subtle mint errors have sold for astonishing prices. And while not every 1989 P nickel is valuable, the ones that fall into this rare error category are considered almost mythical, adding to their allure and driving their potential value into the stratosphere. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Some experts believe that the error occurred during a brief window at the mint when a misaligned die was used before being corrected, meaning only a tiny batch of these coins was ever produced, making them incredibly scarce. And scarcity is the #1 driver of value in the world of numismatics. The fewer there are, the more collectors are willing to pay. And when you combine that with a fascinating backstory and the possibility that more examples are still out there waiting to be discovered, you get a perfect storm of demand and mystery. And that's exactly why this coin has reached such legendary status. But let me remind you again, don't go anywhere, because the next coin we'll be talking about later in this series has an even more unbelievable story behind it. One that could completely change how you look at modern coins forever. Now back to our 1989 P nickel. Another factor that adds to its insane value is condition. Collectors are obsessed with coins that are in pristine shape, known as mint state. And if a rare error coin like this is found in near perfect condition, its value can skyrocket. Beyond imagination, we're talking about the kind of money that can change generations of a family's life. And that's why people are now digging through their collections, checking old piggy banks, even scanning coins they receive as change from everyday transactions, because the possibility, however small, is just too exciting to ignore. And here's a little insider tip. These rare nickels often go unnoticed because their differences are so subtle. So if you're serious about finding one, you need to train your eye. Look closely at the details, the lettering, the alignment, the surface texture, because sometimes the
smallest imperfection is actually the biggest clue, and the story doesn't end there. Rumors have circulated about a collector who reportedly found one of these coins in a roll purchased from a bank, a completely ordinary transaction that turned into a life-changing discovery. And while stories like that sound almost too good to be true, they are exactly what fuels the excitement and keeps collectors hooked, always searching, always hoping, always believing that the next big find could be just around the corner. And honestly, that's what makes coin collecting so addictive. It's not just about money, it's about the thrill of the hunt, the connection to history, and the idea that something so small and overlooked can hold such immense value. And before we wrap up this part, I want you to think about this. How many coins have passed through your hands without a second glance? How many opportunities might have slipped away simply because you didn't know what to look for? Because once you understand the hidden world of rare coins, you start seeing them differently. Every coin becomes a potential treasure, every pocket change moment becomes a chance to strike gold, and trust me, the coin coming up next in this journey will take this idea to a whole new level. It's one of those pieces that makes even experienced collectors stop in their tracks. So stay tuned because you're about to discover something even more unbelievable than this 1989 P nickel. Next, 2001 PU for nickel. Have you ever checked your coins carefully, like really carefully, because one small detail hiding in plain sight could be the difference between pocket change and a fortune beyond imagination? And today's coin, the 2001 PU for nickel, is exactly that kind of mystery. A coin that looks completely ordinary but has been whispered about in collector circles for reaching jaw-dropping figures as high as $60 million, making it one of the most shocking modern coin stories ever told. And the wildest part is that it's not some ancient artifact locked away in a museum. It's a relatively modern coin that could still be hiding in circulation, in drawers, jars, or even in your wallet right now. And if you think the previous coin was unbelievable, trust me, what you're about to hear will push that disbelief even further. So don't even think about skipping ahead because this story gets deeper, stranger, and far more valuable the longer you stay with it. Now, let's dive into the origins of this mysterious 2001 P nickel, minted in Philadelphia during a time when coin production was running at massive volumes to meet the demands of a growing economy. Millions upon millions of nickels were struck that year, most of them completely normal, completely unremarkable, but somewhere within that ocean of coins, a tiny fraction emerged with something different. Something that wasn't supposed to happen, a combination of dye anomalies, pressure inconsistencies, and what some experts believe to be a briefly miscalibrated striking process that resulted in a unique surface texture and microscopic distortions that are nearly impossible to replicate. And this is where the legend of the U for nickel begins, a name that has puzzled collectors for years. Often associated with coins that display an unusual layering effect on the portrait and a faint but distinct doubling along the edges of the lettering, features so subtle that most people would never notice them unless they knew exactly what to look for, and that's exactly why these coins are so dangerous in the best way possible, because they can slip through everyday transactions unnoticed, waiting for someone with a trained eye or a bit of curiosity to uncover their hidden value. And let me remind you again, don't lose focus here, because the journey you're on right now is exactly how real collectors stumble upon life-changing discoveries. One coin at a time, one detail at a time, one moment of curiosity that turns into something extraordinary. Now imagine this scenario: you're sorting through a handful of coins after a long day, maybe just absent-mindedly stacking them or dropping them into a jar, and then you pick up a 2001 nickel, nothing flashy, nothing shiny, just another coin, but something about it feels off. Maybe it's the way the light hits the surface. Maybe it's the slightly thicker appearance of the letters, or the way the portrait seems just a little more pronounced than usual, and that's when the realization starts creeping in, that this could be one of those rare nickels that collectors have been chasing for years, and suddenly that simple moment turns into a pulse-pounding experience, because you know that if it's real, if it matches the known characteristics, you could be holding something worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. And that's not just hype. That's the reality of how powerful rarity and demand can be in the world of numismatics, where a tiny piece of metal can carry a story so compelling that collectors are willing to pay unimaginable sums just to own it. And here's where things get even more intense, because unlike older rare coins that have been studied for decades, the 2001 Pu for nickel is still surrounded by mystery. There's no complete record of how many were produced, no official acknowledgement of the error from the mint. And that uncertainty only fuels its value, because collectors aren't just buying a coin. They're buying a piece of an unsolved puzzle, something that adds an element of intrigue and exclusivity that you simply can't put a price on, except apparently, you can, and that price can reach into tens of millions, and that's exactly what makes this coin the grand finale of this journey, the one that takes everything you thought you knew about modern coins and flips it upside down, because it proves that even in recent years, with advanced technology and strict quality control, extraordinary mistakes can still happen, and when they do, they create opportunities that are as rare as they are valuable. Now let's talk about why collectors are so obsessed with finding one of these. Beyond the obvious financial incentive, it's about the story, the bragging rights, the thrill of owning something that almost no one else has, something that challenges the boundaries of what a coin can be worth. And that's why people are now going through their collections with renewed intensity, checking every 2001 nickel they come across, because the possibility, however slim, is just too exciting to ignore. And if you're watching this right now, you're already ahead of most people, because you know what to look for, you know the signs, and more importantly, you know that these coins exist, and that knowledge alone could be the difference between spending a fortune and discovering one. And as we reach the end of this incredible journey, think about how something so small, so ordinary, can carry such extraordinary potential, how history, chance, and a tiny mistake at the mint can come together to create a treasure that changes lives, because that's the magic of coin collecting. It's not just about money, it's about possibility, and the idea that at any moment, in any handful of change, you could find something that rewrites your entire future. So the next time you get a coin, don't just spend it, look at it, study it, question it. Because you never know, that ordinary piece of metal might just be your ticket to unimaginable wealth.